On September 29th, a video showing a suspected French Navy interception of a Chinese cargo ship went viral on Douyin, but the video was quickly deleted. The video showed a helicopter hovering over a cargo ship while two speedboats approached, surrounding it. In the distance, a warship was visible. Armed soldiers were seen boarding the ship, and one shouted in Chinese, "The soldiers have boarded."
大鱼上来了。
The video caption explained that on September 27th, while sailing in international waters near the English Channel, the ship was intercepted by the French Navy, which sent a warship and helicopter to block it. The crew repeatedly declared they were sailing outside French waters and had the right to innocent passage, refusing a boarding inspection. Despite this, the French military ignored their claims, boarded the ship, and conducted a search. The ship was then escorted to France, and all the crew members were monitored aboard. The poster jokingly added, "Sir, I'm just a good citizen, just a worker." Some commenters speculated that the cargo ship might belong to Russia's Shadow Fleet, a group targeted by EU sanctions, and the French military may have had prior intelligence. It's worth noting that just a few days prior, the same poster uploaded a video showing the ship loading at a Russian port. That video was also deleted. This led to the assumption that the ship may have been carrying crude oil exported from Russia. Mainstream media and official sources have not reported on this event yet. However, according to reports from FRI, the European Commission proposed a new round of sanctions against Russia on September 19th, focusing on key sectors supporting the Russia-Ukraine war, including energy and finance. The proposal still needs approval from all 27 member states, and it's expected to take effect within a few weeks. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said during a press conference that the EU would stop importing Russian liquefied natural gas and lower the price cap on Russian oil to $47.6 per barrel. They're also sanctioning 118 more ships in Russia's Shadow Fleet, adding to the over 560 ships already on the EU sanctions list. Additionally, the EU has banned member states' ports from providing services, insurance, or maintenance to these ships. Von der Leyen emphasized that they're tracking those violating sanctions by buying oil from Russian entities, including refineries, traders, and petrochemical companies based in third countries like China. Over the past 3 years, Russian oil revenues in Europe have dropped by 90%. This is the first time the EU has explicitly targeted third country companies, including those in China. It's clear that the EU is strengthening its enforcements against Russia's Shadow Fleet. This fleet consists of old, unregulated tankers used to evade international sanctions. These ships often fly false flags, have opaque ownership, and operate without insurance, posing threats to maritime security and the environment. If the cargo ship in the video is indeed part of the sanctioned fleet, the French Navy's interception may be part of the EU's broader efforts. Since the summer of this year, the European Union has been closely monitoring Chinese refineries to see if they're purchasing Russian oil from the sanctioned Shadow Fleet. In recent years, the EU has sanctioned over 400 tankers in efforts to curb the Shadow Fleet's transport of Russian oil. In May, reports indicated that the French Navy deployed the intelligence ship to the Baltic Sea for a 2-month mission. The core objectives included 1. Intercepting Russian radio and radar signals to expose secret logistics and military operations. 2. Supporting NATO's Baltic Sentry operation, which began in January 2025 to protect undersea infrastructure. 3. Enhancing intelligence sharing to assist the EU's 17th round of sanctions, extending restrictions on Shadow Fleet tankers to 350 ships. This deployment was reportedly for intelligence gathering rather than combat, and was seen as a floating surveillance center. Following the 19th round of sanctions, the Baltic Sentry operation strengthened in late September, adding new ships, aircraft, drones, and air defense ships to monitor the Shadow Fleet and counter hybrid threats. On September 26, the Dupree de l'Homme departed from Reykjavik, Iceland, for its second Baltic Sea deployment, which is expected to last for several weeks. Additionally, the German Sachsen-class air defense frigate, Hamburg, arrived in Copenhagen on September 28th as part of the expanded Baltic Sentry assets, enhancing air surveillance and overall presence along the eastern border. Swedish Coast Guard patrol ships, Karlskrona and Åland, have been continuously patrolling the Baltic, tracking Shadow Fleet tankers and using radar and drones to identify violators. September reports showed hundreds of suspicious tankers under surveillance. Denmark's multi-role support ship, Absalon, has also been active in the Danish Strait, supporting electronic surveillance and joint exercises to counter Russian drone threats. The operation also includes unnamed escort ships, maritime patrol aircraft such as P-8 Poseidon, and naval drones, covering regions like the Gulf of Finland and the Sweden-Denmark Strait. These deployments respond to Russia's drone incursions and Shadow Fleet activity in September, aiming to boost intelligence sharing and deterrence. It is well known that China is the largest destination for Russian oil exports. Data shows that in August 2025, China accounted for 40% of Russia's fossil fuel export revenue, around 5.7 billion euros, mostly through pipelines and maritime shipments. Russia is China's second largest oil supplier after the Middle East. In the first half of 2025, China's imports of Russian crude oil rose by about 15% year-on-year, making up more than 20% of China's total imports. Russian oil also supplements China's strategic petroleum reserve, extending the reserve by 33 days. Meanwhile, China-Russia natural gas cooperation further deepens energy ties, with Russian gas expected to account for more than 20% of China's imports after 2030. These figures illustrate the high degree of interdependence between China and Russia. Russia relies on China to purchase oil to sustain its war efforts, while China depends on relatively cheap Russian oil to counter the economic stagnation caused by domestic deflation. However, this also exposes China's energy security to significant geopolitical risks. On August 28, 2025, a Douyin user shared a video from aboard a cargo ship, revealing that they were transporting 110,000 tons of crude oil from Russia, heading to Tianjin port in China.
Our ship loaded 110,000 tons of crude oil in Russia and is headed for Tianjin, China. We're currently sailing through the North Atlantic, just past the English Channel. Up ahead is the Bay of Biscay. The sea's getting rough with strong gale force winds. The weather report is warning of an 8-meter wave zone ahead. The captain has ordered all watertight doors sealed, and no one's allowed on deck until further notice.
The blogger also noted that on that day, the cargo ship encountered a super typhoon with a force of 14, and within 2 days, instead of making progress, it was pushed back by 7 nautical miles. Earlier, on August 17th, the blogger uploaded a video of loading crude oil in Murmansk, Russia.
现在我们正在俄罗斯的莫尔曼斯克装原油。
We're loading crude oil right now in Murmansk, Russia, 110,000 tons, about 730,000 barrels. At current international oil prices, this cargo is worth 480 million yuan. It's a steal, 20% below market price. Murmansk is close to the Arctic, freezing cold, with snow year-round and temperatures often dipping below minus 20 degrees. Even so, this is one of Russia's few ports that never freezes. Over 60,000 tons of crude oil ship out from here daily, and nearly half of it heads to China. Each pipeline pumps 3,000 tons an hour, and with 3 pipelines running, we can load up in about a dozen hours. Once we're done, we'll set sail for Murmansk, passing through the Barents Sea, the Norwegian Sea, the English Channel, then through Gibraltar into the Mediterranean. From there, we'll cross the Suez Canal, the Indian Ocean, the Malacca Strait into the South China Sea, heading north to Ningbo Zhejiang. It's a 40-plus day journey back home, covering 13,000 nautical miles.
However, another cargo ship transporting crude oil from Russia to China follows a completely different route. On September 11th, Douyin blogger Navigation Yang Liu Lang posted a video claiming that their cargo ship loaded crude oil in Murmansk, with a route going from the Barents Sea through the Arctic Ocean, passing through the Bering Strait and heading straight to China. This route is part of China's newly launched China-Europe Arctic Express. According to reports from Chinese media, the China-Europe Arctic Express officially launched on September 23rd, operated by Sea Legend, a Chinese-controlled container shipping company. The first ship, Istanbul Bridge, departed from the Beilun port area of Ningbo in Zhejiang, carrying over 1,000 standard containers, and is expected to reach Felixstowe port in the UK in 18 days. This route utilizes the Northeast Passage, also known as the Northern Sea Route, which is approximately 2,700 nautical miles, or 5,000 kilometers long, and runs close to Russia's territorial waters. The route covers 90% of Russian waters, connecting Chinese ports like Ningbo, Shanghai, Qingdao, and Dalian with European hubs like Felixstowe, Rotterdam, Hamburg, and Gdansk. It also supports transshipment for Southeast Asia and South Korea. Compared to the Suez Canal route, which is 40 days, and the Cape of Good Hope route, which is 50 days, the journey is cut almost by half. Yang Lingsheng, the project leader for the Arctic Regional Geopolitical Environment Evolution Research at the Chinese Academy of Sciences, stated that the first voyage is a result of China's promotion of the Ice Silk Road. As the climate warms, it's estimated that 10 to 30% of global freight may shift to Arctic routes in the future. China has already integrated the Northeast Passage into its China-Europe and global transportation system. However, due to climate and geographical limitations, the route is currently only open during the summer months, from July to November, within a 120-day window. It will take 20 to 30 years to extend the ice-free period significantly. In addition to the natural environmental impacts on the passage, Russia's lack of infrastructure also poses risks. In terms of scale, the route appears more experimental. The first voyage carried about 4,100 TEU, which is lower than traditional cargo ships. Freight rates are between those of Europe Railway Express and the Cape of Good Hope route. Yang Lingsheng emphasized that this route is only suitable for segments between Zhoushan Port and north of Amsterdam. If the ice-free period is extended and improvements to icebreakers and other infrastructure are made, this route could reshape global maritime shipping patterns. The launch of this route indirectly expands the strategic space for China-Russia energy cooperation. It essentially opens a back door for Russia's energy exports, enabling it to speed up the transportation of oil, gas, and liquefied natural gas to China through the Arctic route, bypassing the EU's traditional maritime controls and port bans. This poses a challenge to the EU's energy sanctions against Russia. The Arctic Liquefied Natural Gas 2 project, led by Russia's largest independent natural gas producer, is the core of this trade chain. Located on the Gydan Peninsula in Siberia, the project has a total design capacity of 19.8 million tons of LGN per year, with Train 2 now in operation, producing about 13.2 million tons annually. China National Petroleum Corporation and China National Offshore Oil Corporation each hold a 10% stake in the project, injecting local elements into China-Russia cooperation. Due to the impact of post-Ukraine war sanctions from the US and Europe, the project was once frozen, with foreign investments pulled out and construction stalled. However, between August and September 2025, China became its sole buyer, helping the project quickly recover. China-Russia LNG trade shifted from tentative transactions to regular supply. On August 28th, the LNG tanker Arctic Mulan completed a ship-to-ship transfer at a northern Chinese port, unloading about 35,000 tons of liquefied natural gas, equivalent to 55,200 cubic meters. This was followed by the second delivery on September 7th. A Shadow Fleet vessel, the Voskhod, loaded about 75,000 tons of cargo from the Gydan facility and reached China via the Northern Sea route. This successful delivery reinforced the new trade route. It was seen as a significant step in normalizing China-Russian LNG trade, demonstrating the Shadow Fleet's reliable operation under extreme conditions and accelerating the transfer of Russian liquefied natural gas to the east. The pace of deliveries significantly increased in the following weeks. By September 23rd, the 6th Arctic Mulan delivered 75,000 tons, bringing the total to over 370,000 tons. Additionally, the La Perouse ship carried 150,000 cubic meters of liquefied natural gas from Gydan via the Cape of Good Hope, while the Arctic Metagas loaded over 133,000 cubic meters and was heading to China from Murmansk, signaling the ongoing expansion of this trade chain. These deliveries have had a profound impact on the global energy landscape. Firstly, they directly weaken the effect of Western sanctions, providing critical financial support to Novatek. Western analysts believe that the Arctic LNG 2 project will account for over 10% of Russia's liquefied natural gas exports, effectively bypassing Europe's import bans. To avoid direct involvement in sanction risks, Chinese companies have chosen to rely on Novatek's fleet rather than using their own assets. However, the EU's 19th round of sanctions has expanded beyond monitoring Russia's shadow fleet to include third-country entities, such as Chinese refineries and traders. Additionally, the EU has taken action in the financial sector, imposing a ban on cryptocurrency platforms and restricting transactions with foreign banks involved in Russia's alternative payment systems, as well as limiting operations of entities in special economic zones. The European Union also added 45 Russian and third-country companies to this blacklist, including those involved in key technologies like drones. Meanwhile, President Trump sent a letter to NATO member states on September 13th, signaling readiness for significant sanctions against Russia, but with the condition that all NATO countries stop purchasing Russian oil. He also threatened to impose tariffs of 50 to 100% on China until the Russia-Ukraine war ends. Sanctions from the US and Europe have already severely impacted the Russian economy, with interest rates soaring to 17%, inflation high, and financing channels sharply reduced. The situation in the Russia-Ukraine war continues to escalate. On September 28th, Russia launched its largest airstrike of the war, firing 595 drones and 48 missiles over 12 hours, targeting cities like Kiev. Ukrainian air defense systems shot down 568 drones and 43 missiles. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky described the bombing as savage and a deliberate, targeted terror against ordinary cities. According to Ukrainian officials, the attack resulted in 4 deaths, 80 injuries, and the destruction of homes, hospitals, and power plants. In the response to the ongoing bombings, Zelensky stated, "The Kremlin benefits from continuing this war and terror as long as it earns revenue from energy and operates a shadow fleet." He further added that any country hoping for peace must support President Trump's efforts and stop importing goods from Russia. On September 28th, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance stated that the U.S. government is considering providing Ukraine with Tomahawk long-range cruise missiles, with President Trump making the final decision on approval. If this military purchase is authorized, it would mark a significant shift in the U.S. stance. Recently, Trump has reversed his position, calling Russia a paper tiger with a collapsing economy, suggesting that Ukraine could reclaim its territory as it was. Ukraine's drone counterattacks have also dealt heavy blows to Russian forces, destroying tanks, radars, and an An-26 transport plane, with significant losses in areas like Kupiansk and Crimea. Additionally, Reuters recently reported that Chinese engineers have been in Russia since 2023, helping to set up a drone production facility at the local Kubol factory. Not only that, the company has received both offensive and reconnaissance drones made by China through intermediaries. With the assistance of Chinese experts, they have developed Russia's new drone, the Kopya 3. From the EU's recent increase in sanctions against Russia, even extending to third countries like China, to President Trump's recent shift in position, allowing arms sales to Ukraine, and further threatening to impose 100% tariffs on Chinese goods, the EU and US sanctions are reshaping the global energy landscape. These measures will not only force Russia back to the negotiating table, but also strategically contain China, potentially leading to a swift end to the Russia-Ukraine war.